You have money, you can buy. So before you buy, there are some legal processes that you have to undergo. So some people, and especially very influential people, unfortunately, in our society, they find a way of maneuvering or just using shortcut to acquire this land. So in our laws, there are steps that are involved before land is indeed transferred to your name legally. So you must have an agreement to that effect, especially if it is you are acquiring land by way of maybe purchase, so it is being transferred to you. There are legal processes that you have to undergo. First of all, you have to have an agreement, and a written agreement. And our law is very particular, our Land Act. You cannot have an agreement to transfer land without it being in written form. So you cannot just agree verbally that you are going to transfer this piece of land to you without it being in written form. So you have to reduce everything in writing. That writing has to be signed, or has to be, if you don't know how to sign, you can put a thumb or any mark to identify that indeed you have cautiously agreed to be bound by the terms of that agreement. Then this, before the land is transferred to you, there has to be consideration. Consideration can be in form of money, can be a gift or whatnot, but has to be a consideration in that process. Afterwards, it is your duty as the person purchasing the land to make sure that whoever you are buying this land from, indeed they have good title to transfer the land to you. After that, there are forms to be filled, and these forms have to be witnessed by an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, or a magistrate, or a commissioner for odds, for that matter. So if, for example, you don't follow all these processes in one or the other, you might find your way that you've not checked all the legal processes to acquire the good title in that piece of land. In your good faith, maybe you didn't intend. For example, for you to transfer land as the one, we call them the vendor, the one now selling this piece of land, you must have your spousal consent. If you are above 18, you know, our laws, we presume that anyone who is above 18 is ideally or is married. So if you're not married, you have to confirm that indeed you are not married, and you can swear an affidavit to that effect. So if me, as the one buying the land from you, I fail to maybe check whether you've presented your spousal consent or an affidavit to that effect, if your spouse comes later and they say, you know what, this piece of land was transferred without my consent, you know that that transaction is null and void. It has no legal effect. If, for example, you fail to witness the statement, that transaction is null and void. It has no legal effect. If, for example, I fail to pay stamp duty, you know, stamp duty is a legal requirement for any legal document. And given that land forms a legal document, for them to be given the force of law, you have to pay stamp duty to that effect. If you fail to pay stamp duty, that transaction is null and void. So I may not intend to engage in maybe fraud, but because I've failed to check a legal box somewhere, by the end of the day, that transaction is considered as a fraud as far as land is concerned. Because indeed, you've paid the consideration, you've ticked all the legal boxes, you've done the searches, and you are sure that indeed this piece of land belongs to so and so. In fact, the one you're buying from, indeed they own the piece of land legally. But you fail to get, for example, an LCB consent. LCB is the Land Control Board consent. These are the boards that are charged. In each and every district, there are boards that are charged with giving consent as far as subdivision, transfer, or a change of user of any land is concerned. So if you fail to acquire the consent, then that transaction is considered null and void. And for it to be considered null and void, someone has to go to court. And you get now, there may be some other nitty-gritty that will come into force later, that just because you failed to maybe either get sound legal advice, or you maybe presumed something, or due to your assumption, you thought you know so much that you don't need to do this or that.
So we hear a lot about, land cartels. Who are these people? Are they just mere, brokers